This video is brought to you by Your Company Mobiles. For all of your business, landline and mobile phone requirements, check them out at yourcompanymobiles.com. What's up YouTube, Adam here, and it is time for my full review of this, the HTC One M8. Now I've been using this now since the day it came out, so over quite a long period of time, and I really feel like I've come completely to grips with every good and bad feature about this phone, and I'd really like to share it with you in this video. Now let's start off with the fact that I absolutely loved last year's model, the One M7, and the only two things that I felt that they really needed to improve upon were the battery life and also the camera. So let's start off with the battery life. It's quite often forgotten in reviews, but actually is probably one of the most important things in any kind of smartphone. The battery life has significantly improved over last year's model, lasting a full day with medium to heavy usage, and it really does work fantastically well alongside their power saving features as well. The standby time on the phone is phenomenal. If you leave it just turned off overnight, you don't lose any power whatsoever. I think that's a great addition to the HTC One over last year's model. Now the other thing I felt they needed to improve upon was the camera on the back of the phone. Now in last year's model we had that 4 ultra pixel camera, and it really didn't actually live up to the expectations that we had for it. Yes, it did take photos in a slightly darker scenario, but when it took photos in a normal scenario, they weren't quite as good as the competition, the Galaxies, the iPhones and the Notes. Now in this year's model, they've left the camera almost identical apart from some tweaks in the post-processing, but what they have done is they've added an additional camera. Now this additional camera gives you the ability to capture things like depth in order to give you the ability to do things like refocus a photo after the fact that you've taken it. Now, although this is a nice gimmick that you can play around with in the phone itself, and it's very cool to pull focus on pictures once you've actually taken them, in the real world, I think this is not the best feature to have on a smartphone. And when you take these photos off of the camera itself and you put them onto a computer, especially now with 4K screens or 2K screens, they don't look particularly fantastic, and you've got no ability to crop whatsoever. Some of the post-processing that HTC uses is a little harsh as well, and I really do think that they've taken a sideways step with the camera on the HTC One M8. It is definitely not up there with the likes of the Galaxy Note 3, the Galaxy S5 and also the iPhone 5S, and some other cameras as well on smartphones. Now one thing they have left the same and slightly improved upon is those boom sound speakers on the front of the phone, and they sound absolutely incredible. They look pretty much the same as last year's model, but they've definitely made some tweaks and improvements, even though they've lost the Beats logo on the back of the phone and made the HTC boom sound speakers sound just that little bit better than last year, and still significantly better than any other smartphone on the market today. Now another thing that they have built on is the build quality of the HTC One M8. They've definitely made some improvements. This year's model does feel just a little bit more natural in the hand, albeit sometimes a little bit slippery. Sometimes you can quite easily see this slipping out of your hands and falling on the floor, so please do be careful or put it inside a case. But the build quality overall has definitely gone up. They've used much more metal in the One M8, and you can feel that when you hold it. One thing I do feel they've made a slight sideways step on again is the actual design of this year's model. Personally, I preferred the design of last year's model. I just feel it kind of looked that much better when you were looking at it, and also don't particularly love the borders that go all the way around the outside of this year's model. I feel they're just a little bit big for the actual time in which this has come out in 2014, with bezels getting smaller all the time. And the one at the bottom where the buttons used to be on last year's model, for me it's just that little bit too big. Now as we delve inside the phone itself, we've got that brand new Snapdragon 801 processor, and that comes alongside 2GB of RAM, and they've also given you the ability to add your own storage with that micro SD card, going up to 128GB in addition to the onboard storage that you've got on the phone. So that is a fantastic forward step there from HTC. Now that Snapdragon 801 processor is not only fantastic in terms of improving that battery life along with that bigger battery, but it's also significantly faster than last year's model as well. No matter what you throw to this phone, you can put games on it, you can run a whole bunch of things simultaneously. It absolutely chews them up and runs them no problem, and it's probably the smoothest experience that I've had ever on any Android phone, apart from maybe the Nexus 5. Now the screen itself is absolutely phenomenal. They've increased the size ever so slightly to add those on-screen buttons, but the quality has gone up. It's taken a step forward, and I think that this screen on this phone is definitely up there with the very, very best on the market today. The viewing angles are phenomenal. The color accuracy and reproduction are bang on and accurate, and it's just an absolute joy to use. The front-facing camera as well has been improved. They did make a much bigger deal of it than the actual end result, and you could definitely see some improvements, but it could again have stepped up that little bit more. And I think that HTC really need to maybe take a bit of a different angle on all of the camera technology that they've got built into it and improve it hugely on next year's model. Now this comes with the very latest version of Android, and also on top of that we've got the latest version of HTC Sense as well. Some people don't like it, some people don't mind it. Me personally, I really like it. I like the aesthetics of HTC Sense. I like the performance. It's definitely one of the best performers out there on the market today, and I like some of the extra features and functionality and gimmicks that they've also added in as well. To me, I like the actual blink feed when you swipe to the left. I know that you can do the same job with Flipboard, but I think it's nice to just have it fully integrated and just have that single swipe to the left to get access to it. And I also like the Zoe functionality as well. I know this is a bit of a gimmick, but sometimes it's quite cool to go out and just take these short video clips and have HTC Sense put them all together and make a really nice storyline with a nice soundtrack for you. And I found they come out extremely well. Now for my final opinion of the HTC One M8, as I said right back at the beginning, for me, there was only really two issues with last year's model. That was the camera and the battery life. They've taken a huge forward step with the battery life, and this is definitely one of the best battery life performers in any Android phone, or in fact any phone on the market today. Now the other thing that I really felt they needed to improve upon, like I said earlier, was the camera, but they've definitely taken a sideways step with that, and to me they really do need to make some huge improvements there for it to really stand out as a leader in terms of the best Android phone on the market today. Now this is still one of the very, very best Android smartphones that you can buy, and if you do purchase it and you're not that bothered about the actual camera quality, you are going to fall in love with this device because everything else about it is pretty much perfect. Anyway guys, thank you very much for watching. Please do hit that like button, go ahead and subscribe if you're not already, and I will see you all in the next one. See ya. This video was sponsored by Your Company Mobiles, providing SMEs throughout the UK with mobile, landline and converged solutions. Visit www.yourcompanymobiles.com or call 0800 038 5363.